The morning started quietly in Ouagadougou, the capital city of Burkina Faso. The sun rose slowly over the city, painting the sky with soft orange and pink colors. It looked like a peaceful day. But for Captain Ibrahim Traoré, something didn't feel right. He sat on the edge of his bed in the presidential residence, looking out the window. Everything seemed calm, but his heart was heavy. He could feel it in his chest. Something bad was coming. He had felt this way before, back when he was in the forest fighting terrorists. Every time he had this feeling, something dangerous followed. Ibrahim Traoré wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was the head of state. He had taken power to protect his people and push away the foreign hands that had long controlled his country. He knew the path he chose was not easy. He had made powerful enemies, outside and inside the country. But what troubled him most this morning was the silence. Normally, the government house was filled with noise in the morning, guards talking, cars starting, papers moving, radios playing. But today, it was too quiet. He stood up, washed his face, and dressed in his uniform. As he walked out of his room, 2 guards stood near the door. They didn't smile. They didn't salute. They only nodded with serious faces. That was the first sign. He walked down the hall and past more guards. Again, no one looked him in the eye. Some whispered quietly. Others stood stiff like statues. It was as if the air had changed. It was cold, even though the sun was shining outside. Traoré didn't say a word. He just walked, thinking carefully. These men were supposed to protect him. They were trained, paid, and trusted to stand between him and danger. But today, they looked different. Today, they looked like strangers. He remembered something his old commander once told him during a military drill: when the people closest to you go quiet, check your back. A silent knife cuts fastest. That old saying kept echoing in his mind. He entered the dining room where breakfast was served. The table was set, but the staff didn't greet him the usual way. One cook looked nervous. A server dropped a spoon and quickly picked it up, avoiding Traoré's eyes. Something was very wrong. He sat down slowly and drank water, but didn't eat the food. Not today. One of his trusted bodyguards, Captain Farouk, came into the room. He leaned in close and whispered, "Are you okay, sir?" Traoré gave him a sharp look. "Do you feel it too?" Farouk nodded slowly. "Yes. Too quiet. Too cold. Some guards were changed last night. New faces I've never seen." Traoré's eyes sharpened. "Stay close. Don't trust anyone. If anything happens to me, act fast." Farouk nodded again, his face serious. "Understood." Just then, a soldier walked in with a message. "Captain Traoré, there is an urgent meeting. The security chiefs want to speak with you. They are waiting in the lower briefing room." Traoré stood up. He didn't speak. He just looked at the soldier. The man was new. His voice was calm, but something in his eyes looked wrong, like he was hiding something. He turned to Farouk and said in a low voice, "Watch the time. If I don't come out in 15 minutes, you know what to do." Farouk didn't ask questions. He simply tapped his watch and walked toward the hallway. As Traoré followed the soldier down the stairs, his footsteps echoed. The walls felt closer than usual. He passed 2 more guards at the bottom, both with blank faces. The hallway lights flickered as they walked. Each step felt heavier. Each breath felt colder. Traoré's hands stayed near his waist, close to the small knife hidden under his belt, just in case. He had walked into battles before, but this was different. He was walking into something he couldn't see, something hidden behind smiles and silence. He whispered to himself, "Stay calm. Don't show fear. If they strike, strike back." As they reached the lower door, it opened slowly. Inside, the room was dark. The soldier motioned for him to enter. Traoré paused at the door. He took one last look at the hallway, then stepped inside. The door slammed shut behind him. The lights went off. The silence turned deadly. As the door slammed shut behind him, everything turned black. Captain Ibrahim Traoré stood still in the darkness. He didn't panic. He knew fear could get him killed. He took a deep breath and listened. He heard nothing, no voices, no footsteps, no papers moving. Just silence. Then, a voice broke through the dark. "So, you finally came." It was a deep voice. Calm. Confident. Traoré couldn't tell where it was coming from. The room had no lights. No windows. It felt like a trap. Another voice spoke. "This meeting is not what you expected, Captain." Now Traoré was sure. He wasn't at a real meeting. This was something else. Something dangerous. And he was alone. He slowly reached his hand toward his side. His fingers touched the small knife he always carried. It wasn't much, but it was something. He didn't draw it yet. He waited. A small red light blinked in one corner of the room. Then he saw them, 3 men standing by a table. 2 were guards he had seen before. The third had his face covered with a scarf. Only his eyes showed. "You shouldn't have said no to France," one of the men said coldly. "You messed up the plan." Traoré didn't answer. He just stared. The scarfed man stepped closer. "You think you are strong, but you are alone now. Nobody's coming for you." Still, Traoré didn't speak. He knew that silence could be a weapon too. The second guard walked to the door and locked it again, this time with a metal bar. Then he pulled a rope and a cloth from his bag. The message was clear. They were here to kill him quietly. "You will disappear," the man said. "No one will ask questions. They will just say you vanished." Traoré smiled. Just a little. "Wrong," he said quietly. "I'm not alone. And I don't vanish." That's when he heard it. A small boom from above. Then another. The walls shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. It was Captain Farouk. He had come. And Traoré knew, now it was time to fight back. The walls shook again. Another boom came, louder this time. The 3 men in the room looked at each other. Their faces changed. Their eyes showed fear. Something was happening that they didn't expect. Traoré stood tall now. He wasn't just a target anymore. He was the man who had planned ahead. He looked straight at the man with the scarf and said calmly, "I warned you. I don't walk alone." Suddenly, loud shouting came from outside the room. Boots hitting the floor. More noise. Then gunshots. Captain Farouk and the loyal guards had arrived. They were fighting their way through the hallway. One of the traitor guards ran to the door and pulled his gun. "We have to kill him now," he shouted. Traoré didn't wait. He pulled out the knife from his belt and threw it hard. The blade hit the man's hand, making him drop the gun with a cry. The second guard raised his weapon, but Traoré was already moving. He leaped over the table and tackled him to the ground. The gun flew away. They rolled, fists flying. The traitor was strong, but Traoré had the strength of a man fighting to live. He punched the man hard in the jaw and stood up quickly. The man with the scarf pulled out a pistol and aimed it at Traoré. But before he could fire, the door burst open in a cloud of smoke and sparks. Captain Farouk came in first, his rifle ready. 2 more soldiers followed. "Down!" Farouk shouted. The scarfed man tried to fire, but it was too late. Farouk shot once, hitting the man in the shoulder. He fell to the ground screaming. The 2 other guards tried to escape, but the loyal soldiers moved fast. One was shot. The other dropped his weapon and raised his hands. The room was filled with smoke, dust, and the smell of gunfire. But Traoré stood tall. His uniform was dirty, his face sweaty, but he was alive. He looked at the traitors on the floor. Then he looked at Farouk and gave a small nod. "It's not over," he said. Farouk nodded back. "I know." They had escaped the trap, but now they had to find out who had set it. The smoke was still thick in the air. The hallway outside was dark, and sparks were flying from a broken light on the ceiling. The building felt like it was shaking, but it wasn't from an earthquake, it was from the battle. Captain Ibrahim Traoré wiped the sweat from his face. He looked at the traitors on the ground, then at the men who had saved him. "We can't stay here," he said quickly. "There may be more." Captain Farouk nodded. "Yes. We heard on the radio, some other guards refused to move. They may be part of the plan too. Traoré picked up one of the enemy's weapons and checked it. Then we must move fast. No one else dies today. The small team of loyal soldiers formed a tight group around Traoré. They moved carefully down the hallway. The air was tense. Every corner could hide danger. Every sound made their hearts beat faster. As they turned one corner, 2 more guards appeared. At first, no one knew which side they were on. "Stand down!" Farouk shouted. "Drop your weapons!" The 2 guards hesitated, then slowly lowered their guns. "We're not part of this," one of them said. "We heard shots, but we weren't told anything. We swear." Traoré looked into their eyes. He could tell they were scared. He nodded. "Then help us," he said. "If you're loyal, stay behind and block the hallway. Don't let anyone follow." The guards nodded and took positions. The team continued moving. Downstairs, more gunfire echoed. A radio crackled in Farouk's hand. "Commander, the front gate is blocked. There's a truck parked sideways. We can't get out." Traoré thought fast. "Then we go through the back." He knew the government house well. There was a hidden hallway, used only in emergencies. Most people didn't even know it existed. He had never used it before, but this was the time. He led the team to a wall near the old library. He pushed a stone block near the corner, and with a soft click, a narrow door opened. Inside was a small passage, dark and dusty. "This leads to the garden wall," he said. "Once we're out, we head straight to the northern base. There, we'll be safe." The men entered the tunnel quickly, one by one. As they moved, Traoré felt his mind racing. Someone had tried to kill him. Not a stranger. Not a foreign spy. But people from inside, the same men who wore the same uniform, carried the same flag. That hurt more than bullets. When they reached the end of the tunnel, Farouk pushed open a hatch. They climbed out into the garden behind the government house. It was quiet there. No guards. Just trees and a small path. A black SUV was hidden near the trees. It had been placed there 2 days earlier, just in case. Farouk smiled. "You always plan ahead, don't you?" Traoré didn't smile back. He looked at the house behind him, then said quietly, "This was just the beginning." Then they got into the car and drove into the dark. The black SUV drove fast through the quiet streets of Ouagadougou. Captain Ibrahim Traoré sat in the back seat, staring out the window. His eyes were tired, but his mind was sharp. He didn't speak much. He was thinking. Captain Farouk was driving. 2 loyal guards sat in the front with him. The air in the car was heavy. No one joked. No one smiled. They had just escaped death. And they all knew, it was not over. Traoré finally spoke. "They were my own men." Farouk nodded. "Yes. And they almost succeeded." "They were well planned," Traoré added. "Someone gave them orders. Someone higher up." Farouk gripped the steering wheel tighter. "Do you think it was someone in the command center?" "Maybe," Traoré said. "Or maybe outside. Maybe someone promised them money, power, maybe even a way out of the country." They reached the northern military base just before sunrise. Soldiers at the gate were surprised to see their leader arrive without warning. They quickly let the SUV in. Inside, Traoré met with a small team of officers he trusted completely. He told them everything. The ambush. The faces he saw. The voices he heard. "Lock down the government house," he said. "No one enters. No one leaves. Arrest all the guards from last night. Question everyone." The officers saluted and ran off to begin the operation. Traoré turned to Farouk. "This is not just about me anymore. If they can try to kill the head of state, they can do anything. We must clean our house." Farouk nodded. Later that morning, Traoré called a secret meeting with his advisors. He didn't speak in a loud voice. He spoke calmly, but firmly. "There are traitors among us," he said. "We will find them. We will remove them. And we will make sure this never happens again. He didn't smile. He didn't rest. He got to work. Because the fight had just begun. Captain Ibrahim Traoré did not sleep that day. After escaping death in the government house, he knew he could not waste a single minute. The attack was not just about him. It was about the future of the country. If his own guards could turn against him, how many others were waiting for the right moment to strike? Inside the northern military base, Traoré set up a small war room. Only his most trusted men were allowed in. The doors were locked. Phones were checked. No cameras. No leaks. He stood in front of a large map of the city. "Start with the names we know," he said. "The guards who were on duty. The ones who didn't salute. The ones who were quiet." Captain Farouk was writing down a list. 17 guards from the night shift. 5 of them were replaced at the last minute. No clear reason. "That's the hole they used," Traoré said. "They knew my routine. They knew where I would be. That means someone from inside gave them the plan." He turned to another officer. "What do we know about the scarfed man?" The officer opened a file. "He's not on our list. No service record. We think he was smuggled in wearing a stolen uniform." "Who let him in?" "We don't know yet. But we will." Traoré's face was calm, but inside, he was burning. He had once walked through the battlefield with courage. He had faced terrorists in the forests and deserts. But betrayal from within, that was harder. These were men who had trained beside him. Some had even shared food with him. Now they wanted him dead. He looked at Farouk. "We can't chase them all at once. But we can cut the route." Farouk nodded. "We start at the top." "Yes," Traoré said. "The commander who approved the guard list. Bring him in." Quietly. Within an hour, the commander was sitting in a locked room, facing Traoré. The man was sweating. His hands shook slightly. "I don't know anything," he said. "I just followed the list I was given." "Who gave you the list?" Traoré asked. "It came from the ministry. Security chief's office." Traoré frowned. The security chief was a man he had trusted, or thought he had. A man who had worked closely with foreign partners. A man who had once said, "We must not make enemies with France." Now the pieces were starting to come together. "Bring the security chief here," Traoré ordered. That evening, the chief was picked up from his home. He didn't resist. He looked surprised, but not scared. "You think I did this?" he asked calmly when brought to Traoré. "You tell me," Traoré said. The man leaned forward. "Captain, I tried to warn you. You were making enemies too fast. You pushed too hard. France, the elites, the old power, they are not happy. I didn't want this to happen. But maybe it had to." That confession was all Traoré needed. He stood up and said firmly, "You are under arrest for treason." The chief didn't fight. He just smiled bitterly. "You can arrest me, but others will come. This fight is bigger than you." Traoré nodded. "Yes. But it starts with me." He turned to his officers. "Take him away." As the chief was taken from the room, Traoré looked around at his men. "From this moment on," he said, "no one is above suspicion. We check every office, every report, every link to outside powers. This is our house. We clean it now." One officer asked, "What about the media?" Traoré replied, "Tell them the truth. There was an attempt to break our country from inside. But we're still standing." He looked out the window into the night. He was still standing. But now, he knew the storm had only just begun. Ibrahim Traoré survived the trap meant to end his life. He did not run. He did not hide. He cleaned his house, removed the traitors, and stood stronger than before. His enemies thought fear would break him. But it made him sharper. The people saw his courage and stood with him. He proved that real power comes from truth, not lies. From loyalty, not money. From the people, not outside hands. The night they tried to kill him became the day he rose higher. And from that moment, no one could deny, Traoré was a leader made in fire.